Okay, good evening, dear hearts, and welcome to another episode of the Innerdance Show. And supporting us in our return to sacred flow this evening is the phenomenal Lianna Greene. Lianna is a renowned belly dance teacher and performer, inner dance facilitator, yoga birth teacher, and spiritual midwife. And I had the honour of training alongside Lianna a couple of years ago when we attended Katie Holland's, I think it was her first training after lockdown had lifted. So I got to spend a few glorious days sort of bearing witness to how Lianna processes deeply and also supports and holds space for others so that they can go deeply. So it's a real honor to connect with you again, Lianna, because we've not had a chance to sort of catch up in the last couple of years because it's been kind of busy.
I know, it's crazy. It's just time has flown so much, hasn't it?
It certainly has. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the world of movement and, yeah, belly dance, inner dance, how that's all come about for you.
Okay, so I suppose it starts with the belly dance journey. I have been belly dancing for nearly 23 years, so a huge amount of time. And I stumbled across a class when I was 6 weeks postnatal after having my son, and just became absolutely hypnotized by the music and the rhythms and the movement. And it was the start of a very long journey because I never in a million years would think that I would end up teaching and performing all over the world. So it was very, 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 very surprising that that's the way that my journey unfolded, as it were. But I suppose back then I was a much bigger person, so I lost a huge amount of weight, and part of that was related to belly dance. Part of that was through just taking care of myself, I think. But yes, I ended up meeting lots of very well-known dancers along the way. I actually met Katie Holland, who ran our inner dance training back in Bodies and Beats Festival, which was a world music and dance festival, which was in the south coast of the UK. And I'd attended a couple of workshops and we kept in touch. So I knew her initially through belly dance, actually.
Right.
So that's how everything kind of started. And then we both had mutual friends in Hossam and Serena Ramsey, who, if anyone has ever heard of them, Hossam was the biggest name in Egyptian music. He was a world famous tabla player. He played on lots of musical scripts and scores and movies, and played with lots of very famous people like Ricky Martin and Jimmy Page and Robert Plant and all that sort of stuff. And Serena Ramsey was his partner in crime, as it was. She was the vision of his music. So she would create these beautiful movements with her body that was emulating the music that he was creating. She was the visual representation of the music, which was something we all kind of shared, and what we learnt through them, we've taken on since then for as long as I can remember now. But Katie was also one of their students as well. So that's how me and Katie came to be as friends, if you like, through all of that.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, firstly, it sounds like, belly dance found you and what a transformation it sounds like in quite a short space of time. It sounds like it really became your life. I don't know if that's how you would describe it, but it sounds like it became very central to how you were living and, yeah, one of your deep passions, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I back then I was going to like a local class, and then when I met Hossam and Serena, they
Hmm.
asked me to train with them on their first advanced dancers course. And back then I was completely overwhelmed. As I say, I was a much bigger person then as well. So it was a real challenge for me to move in the way that they wanted me to.
Uh-huh.
And I was one of the first graduates of their course. I played drums with Hossam as well, as part of his drummer queens group. And Serena was my mentor for so many years. And that gave me the push I needed to actually start teaching. And it all happened at the same time as me qualifying as a midwife, believe it or not. So I did take a little bit of time out of my midwifery practice to dance for a good couple of years. So I qualified as a midwife and then didn't practice because I felt that I needed to just dance and create and see where that took me. And then I realized it didn't cover the bills. So I ended up going back into midwifery. So it did interweave quite a lot throughout my life. But I taught weekly classes locally for years and years and years. And I ran lots of big theatre productions, and danced all over the UK initially. But then that kind of transitioned partially through lockdown, I think, because we weren't able to dance and there was a huge shift in the world, as we know. And I was questioning, obviously I was grateful that I had a job and I was able to still support women, and I still had a roof over my head and all those things. But there was a huge part of me that was missing through dance.
Yeah.
So trying to recreate that when we came out of lockdown was really difficult. And I managed for a very short amount of time, and then had to make a very big decision and stop teaching the weekly classes and shift what I now do, which is doing more performance work and running performance projects and teaching a much more advanced level of dancer, I guess, but also very niche stuff. So I do lots of fusion. I'm very much into my rock and metal music, so I do lots of dance to that kind of music. So I'm one of the few dancers in the UK that actually do that, which is quite cool. And I do get people travel to me, which always blows my mind, that people will come spend 3 or 4 hours on a train to come to one of my workshops when I run them. So yeah, it's been crazy.
Well, I'm not surprised at all that people would travel to work alongside you and to learn from you, particularly when you're holding such phenomenal spaces where you're creating fusion and you're working with different sounds, really contemporary
Yeah,
way, sort of
yeah.
blending this ancient sort of sacred geometry of movement with these really contemporary modern music. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. But yes, no, it's been a little bit, it's been very, it's evolved, I think, over time. And I do miss the weekly classes, but at the same time, I have so many people that have stayed in my life through dance. So the first ever troupe that I had, we're still very, very close friends now. We all went away for the weekend's just gone to surprise one of our girlfriends for her 50th birthday. And most of the group were from that first troupe that we had together, which is amazing. So not they don't all still dance now, but we're all still very much important in each other's lives, which is
Gosh,
amazing.
I guess it just demonstrates the power of dance to really bring about community and an intimacy between you all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think belly dance is very has that element to it. The community element is really, really important. Whichever kind of style of belly dance you're into, there is, we all kind of know each other. We all support each other around the UK at various different events and things. And yeah, it's lots of women find it's very, very powerful for gaining confidence in their bodies, for feeling more accepted within society. Anything kind of goes really, and we all are there to support and encourage each other and help them gain confidence in themselves, which is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. So you mentioned there, I'm aware that you do fusion and you work with rock sort of music and metal. So what
Yeah.
other what kinds of belly dance are there? Because I'm a novice, so I was just assuming there was there's belly dance, but it sounds like there's different styles within that.
Yeah, absolutely. So belly dance originates from the Middle East, and most people may know kind of Turkish belly dance. They may know like Egyptian style belly dance. It evolved over the years, and the fusion part came in when people travelled, and they would take in their dance styles and bring it into that area. So I think a lot of modern dance anyway is a fusion of sorts. So it, it kind of takes the rule book out the window, which is the bit that I love about it. So you can kind of take what you like and move it in the way that you want to. So when I dance, I incorporate lots of kind of lyrical, contemporary sort of movements as well. And, I take a piece of each person I've learnt from. So as I say, my first ever teacher was Iranian. So that was very grounded, very earthy, very big movements. And then I then learned from Serena Ramsey, who was very ballet. She was also Brazilian, so she still had that earthy element, but she would dance to orchestral kind of Oriental music, Egyptian music. So it was completely different again. And then when I started getting into fusion, I got a little bit darker. So I took a bit of sort of tribal stuff, which had very set kind of arm patterns and hip patterns. And then from there, I've then been dancing with people in the UK, such as Alexis Southall. And I travel over to Italy regularly and dance with Valentina Iani, who does, again, lots of contemporary stuff, but also has her own unique style. So each person you learn with, you just take a piece of what you like. And then that helps your own style evolve. And because I've done it for so long, it's I think my style is a complete mishmash of different people. But I think people do tell me I have my own style, so I assume that's not a bad thing necessarily. But
For sure. And I'm
yeah,
imagining that people are incorporating, yeah, how you embody these moves into their projects and into their choreography as well. So
yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's also really useful to mention, I think, is that a lot of people that I work with in my midwifery capacity are almost surprised that I'm a belly dancer. If you allow a woman to mobilize in labor, which physiological birth, just allowing birth to unfold, they will dance. So a lot of the movements we do are actually belly dance movements during the birth process. And if you go very, very, very far back, belly dance originally was a dance of women. It was a very tribal dance. So men were never allowed in the birth space. They would be on the edge of the village and it all be women together, dancing and drumming for each other. And, you know, the movements that they would do would help bring the babies into the world. It gets babies into good positions. And yeah, it all kind of stems from there. So it's all kind of interlinked together.
that's beautiful. I didn't know that, and yet, and as soon as you said it, it felt like, of course, I know that. I'm imagining certain movement patterns that we all innately do when we need
Yeah.
to soothe ourselves, or when we're in pain, or
Exactly,
need to.
circles, figure of eights, all those kinds of movements, whether you're standing, hands and knees, all those, you know, you can do the same positions in different um, places on your body and it will feel different, but they are the same movements essentially.
Wow, that's so powerful. I'm wondering if that was maybe one of the first purposes or functions of belly dance.
Yeah, I believe it to be, whether people may argue with me, but I mean, as a midwife, I work predominantly in a low risk setting. So I do lots and lots of home births. And I also work at our local birth centre as well. So all the women I see are having what we call a physiological labour, so allowing birth to unfold. And those women move. they don't tend to, they don't lie on their backs. They don't tend to make a lot of noise for the most part. They're usually very calm. It's usually lots of music playing and there's lots of movement and they will naturally do it. I might suggest things to them, but they do move throughout their birth.
Well, I just think it's so beautiful that you're blending these your worlds together, and in fact they're coming together so effortlessly, and because they belong together.
They do, absolutely. And I've also actually looked after some of my friends in labour as well, which has always been very interesting to see how they managed and things. I didn't always get there for the birth, but I had my very best friend had a baby probably just under 2 years ago now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite a special story in that I was due to have an operation. So as it was still COVID, I was having to self-isolate. So I could only look after her up until she was 37 weeks plus 1 day. And then I was self-isolating from the following day. And she went into labour that night. So I'd seen her, I'd signed her off and said, right, you can go in to be with your other midwives now and they'll look after you for your birth. And then she phoned me and said, I'm in labour. So I was on call for my hospital. I had to get the okay to keep my phone on, knowing that I might have to abandon her. But it was really lovely because I'd spent so much time with her and it was her first baby as well. We'd done lots of yoga together during her pregnancy. She'd been one of my belly dance students for years. I'd known her since she was 17, but we developed this insane friendship over the years. And she gave birth within 5 hours and she was absolutely incredible. And I remember that, you know, 4 in the morning when you think I've got to go to work in 2 hours. But, I was absolutely buzzing. And I always kind of feel like, that her baby girl wanted me to be there. So she wasn't going
Yeah.
to have anybody else. She decided to come early.
No, that's right. That's right. And I think she's got great choice making there already. She knew who she wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm just wanting to add to that, because obviously I know you're an inner dance facilitator.
Yeah.
That there's many women around the world who are choosing inner dance births, and
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
where epic long inner dance soundscapes are being created to support the birthing process.
Wow, that's
So, like,
incredible.
I'm not sure if there's any. Maybe it was this year, earlier on this year, or late last year. There was a couple of facilitators who birthed through inner dance.
Wow, that'd
So
be
yeah,
really cool to connect and find out how they found it, really, I guess.
yeah. Well, I mean, apparently, so obviously we're working with the waves. So the
Yeah,
waves, similar to the movements that you're working with, are supporting the rise and fall and of the chemicals required, and to support the rest period and then the active periods.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that makes total sense.
So that might be something for you to consider, perhaps in the future, as you're fusing all of these loves together.
Yeah,
That
no, that's a really good point, actually. Very interestingly, I did like a little refresher weekend with Katie at the beginning of the year, and we actually had a day of awakened belly dance. I don't know if you've actually done that with her or not.
I've had a couple of sessions, and then I've done some of the online stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there was within the group, I think a couple of my girlfriends had done online, but we found this very different. I hadn't done anything at all, but that was really interesting because we did lots of kind of chakra awakening,
Mm-hmm.
and again the movements that we were doing, it's again linked to belly dance, but there was also, we felt very activated. That's the only word I can describe, really, off of the basis of one of them. And it was really interesting because one minute we were activated, the next minute we were screaming, then we were crying. It was all this massive journey, but we were all there was one point, it was very primal. We were all kind of coming off the floor, doing hands and knees, circles, moaning. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, I I feel like I've done this before. And I have a son. He's 22 now, and I remember, unfortunately, I didn't have a vaginal birth with him. I had a C-section when I was at fully dilated. So I did manage to get that far, and I think I've become quite passionate about birth because of his experience. But what
Yes.
was really interesting is, I never went back to have another child, and I came away going, what is this trying to tell me? Is it that I wanted another child, or is it something else? And I came away from that session thinking, I know that I've given birth before in other lives. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm passionate about physiological birth because of the experience that I had. And I wondered if I'd had myself as a midwife, whether my experience would have been different. What I took from it was that I hadn't actually dealt with my own birth trauma.
Right.
So, bearing in mind my son is now 22, medical records can hold your notes for 25 years. So I actually went to my old trust and I requested them. They very quickly came within 4 weeks. I haven't properly read them. I've had a little skim read because I thought I'm not ready yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that I have them. But the bits that I did read, I was completely mismanaged. So back then I wasn't a midwife. I trained when he was 2 years old. So um, and it was because of my experience that made me want to train. But it was just a really interesting observation. I think sometimes we do this healing work and we don't know the answers immediately. We have to go away and think and digest. And for me, that's what I've taken away from it, is that I needed to work through that experience, because only then can I, be the midwife that I want to be.
Wow. Such moving witnessing of your process, to stay with what was beginning to emerge through your embodiment, and to have the presence of heart mind to flesh this out and to get the information that you need so that you can really attend to how you were not attended to all
Yeah,
those years ago.
yeah, exactly. And, I didn't have the most amazing experience, as a pregnant person. I didn't see the same midwife twice. I met my actual midwife, my named midwife, when I was in my third trimester. And I made a very, polite comment. I just, oh, so you're my midwife. And she literally bit my head off. You've got to bear in mind, I was quite young. I was 22 years old. So I didn't know what I was doing. But I kind of felt that there was something more out there than that. And I did so much research around pregnancy. I found it all so fascinating. And I'd wanted to go to the local birth centre, which is where I now work, ironically. But my blood pressure was elevated at the end, so I couldn't go. I had to go to hospital. But I stayed true to my birth plan all the way through to that last minute. But what was really interesting is the person that made me want to train as a midwife was actually just a midwife that worked on the postnatal ward. And she came on the next day. She just spent some time with me. And I thought, why? What is it about her that made the difference to me? And it was just that she was kind and she sat there and I felt heard. I felt like she sat, she listened, she held my hand. My baby had gone to special care overnight because his breathing was very fast. So they needed to keep an eye on him. She got him back for me. And yeah, she was the one that made the difference in my journey. And then when I trained as a midwife 2 years later, she was still working at that hospital, and I got to tell her, "You're the reason I'm here," which she was
Wow.
completely blown away, because for her, she's like, "I just work on the postnatal ward." But she made such a difference to me. And I kind of thought, right, I can do this. I can make a difference to other people as well.
And you are. What a beautiful story of sort of encircling and cycling back, and amazing that you were able to tell her that, and that you're now working in that centre.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's a real honour to hear your story, and I'm just so struck by the synchronicities and how guided you have been. I can't imagine it's always felt that way for you,
No,
but just
absolutely not. There's been many, many a time that I've wanted to leave midwifery, but luckily there's been enough that's pulled me back, I think. And a lot of that, I think, was realizing what kind of midwife I wanted to be.
yeah,
It's quite tricky, I think, sometimes when you're working within the NHS, and it is confined because we have our own challenges, that, there's not enough of us, and that is a national situation when we had the March for Midwives not so long ago, actually. And, obviously people get pregnant, there's lots more people that are higher risk, that perhaps, that creates more complication in how we care for them, and things like that. So it's always been challenging to a point, and the staffing has been the biggest issue. But I knew in my heart that I was always a spiritual midwife. The book Spiritual Midwifery was the book that I read when I was pregnant. I read it again as a student. I've read it again as an adult, like later on in my life, my midwifery career, and revisited it. And that is what I was always true to. I actually, when I qualified, I'd never seen a forceps delivery. And I was thinking, my God, will I know when there's going to be a problem, when I need help? And one of the midwives turned to me and said, "You will always go into a room and see normal. You won't, you know when you need to call for help." And I've always kept that. So, most of my women, in fact, don't go to hospital to have their babies. I pride myself on having a very good birth rate. So most of my women will opt for a home birth or a birth centre birth. And actually, this year for my trust, I got awarded Midwife of the Year. I don't know if I said that to you previously or not.
it's amazing. I'm not surprised at all.
I was very surprised, believe it or not. I actually thought it was a joke when it first came up. But yeah, a lot of that was because of the work I do with women, and also the yoga birth training that I did as well. So again, which all ties in to the same, like you say, same energies, same patterns.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I'm delighted that you have been acknowledged in such an official way for how your spiritual and creative midwifery.
Thank you so much.
I hope you're very proud of yourself for that achievement.
My husband is very proud and my colleagues are very proud. My team leader bought me a little badge so that I could wear it with pride to people, so people know.
Good. I mean, even if you hadn't told me that, I can feel just by hearing you and how you talk about your work, how amazing you are at what you do and the spaces that you hold and what safe hands you have for these women. Really. And I'm very excited to hear that you're going to be taking more time for inner dance.
Yes,
Maybe
trying my best.
So I know that obviously you did your first training a couple of years ago. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your inner dance journey.
Okay, so in a dance, I first experienced it. It was many, many years ago. I can't tell you exactly how long ago it was. But Katie came over to the UK. She comes over 2 or 3 times a year, I think. She's always traveling the world doing her thing. And she came over and facilitated a class with another local belly dancer who I know really well. And to be honest, I can't say that I knew what to make of it at that first session. But what I remember was, whilst keeping my eyes closed, whilst moving, whilst listening to the music, there was points where I knew who was behind me. I knew whose energy was near, which was interesting because I knew Katie, but I didn't know the other person particularly well. But there was a moment where they just ran their fingers at my back and I felt electric shocks and then I blacked out. So I don't mean that I passed out. I don't remember what happened next. All I
Mm-hmm.
remember was when I came round at the end of the session that I was like, what the hell has happened? And I walked out of that room feeling like everything felt lighter. I've always had old lady hips is what my yoga teacher calls it, and that's because I'm a belly dancer. I'm hypermobile, so I get lots of pain. But I was able to walk easily, but I couldn't put into words what had happened. And I told people about it, but there wasn't the opportunity to go to another class for some years later. And then I arranged to meet with Katie when she came to the UK for lunch. But before that, I saw she was running a local class in a dance. And I thought, oh, it's a Tuesday, I can pop along. And it was literally, the extent of my thought process. And it was a tiny group, it was just Katie facilitating it. And this class was 5 years after my father passed away. And he very sadly, we lost him 10 years ago. He had a heart attack on my son's 12th birthday. So really horrific. We didn't see it coming. But that day, I witnessed reliving that experience. So it was almost like I was floating above my body and I could see it unfolding in front of me and I couldn't stop it. So I remember Katie coming over and holding me while I sobbed and I cried for 2 hours straight, essentially. So I met her for lunch a week later and I said, we need to debrief, basically. And she had no idea. From her point of view as a facilitator, she's holding space. And she felt I needed a hug. That was probably, obviously, Katie is like a guru, isn't she? So there was probably more to it than that, but that's all she told me. From my point of view, I'd held this guilt that I wasn't there the moment he died. And I know as a midwife, like I couldn't have done anything. He had a massive heart attack. He fell down where he was. But, you still carry that. And especially being my son's birthday, it was always such a horrendous time of year. But that took 5 years of me coming to that realization that there was no one to blame and I could forgive myself. So that
Yes.
was huge trauma healing for me, which, of course, as we know, with any healing, it doesn't end there, does it? It was just the first stage of acceptance, I guess. So that was 5 years ago. And then, of course, 3 years later, we saw the opportunity to go for the facilitation. So when that came about, I wasn't planning on facilitating. I was thinking, I've had a lot go on. And, in between times, I'd lost my mother as well. My son was going through a really bad time. And I felt like I had a lot of healing to do. and trauma release work to do. So I figured if I go to Leicester for 5 days, I could just do some serious work on myself and take myself away. And what also happened randomly was that a few of my friends, one of them, all three were dancers, belly dancers. One of them had already booked it, and I didn't even know, but she'd done some Awaken Belly Dance with Katie online as well. My best friend heard me talk about inner dance. She said, "Do you know what? I could do with some time out as well. I'll come with you." And then another girlfriend literally got a last place because someone dropped out, and we had a space in the Airbnb. So we ended up, these three girls had never done inner dance in their life. You're all of a sudden thrown into like this extreme healing on speed almost, isn't it? It's just this mad, I mean, those days were incredible, weren't they? But it was up, down, up, down. One of the girls said there is a before Leicester and after Leicester in terms of how she sees the world now. You know, it's really hard to put into words, I think, isn't it? Until you've been through the journey of, you know, what the facilitation can give you. But being able to, you know, for me, I'd never screamed before. And when we were taking it in turns to facilitate, you know, someone put their hands on me and asked me what I was afraid of, and I screamed in her face for the whole track, kind of thing. I'd never done that in my life. So there was so much that came out. One of the girls who doesn't normally cry, she didn't stop crying the whole weekend. And we had so much work to do. It was absolutely incredible. But I remember walking away from that long weekend and I felt like a hugely different person, like I was just floating on air and nothing could get to me.
Wow. I'm hearing how it's still vibrantly alive in your body as you speak into that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, we left it a really long time. We did try and meet up and practice on each other a little bit. And the problem is that you have the best of intentions, but life gets in the way a little bit, doesn't it? So it's not always easy to do that. But we've had a couple of weekends since then where we've gone up and done some more work with Katie, not to facilitate, but just to experience and immerse ourselves. And the facilitation, I haven't done as much as I would like, but I have done some work with Sarah Faye, who you know, which was very, very special, us co-facilitating together, because I did throw her in the deep end for it. But there were times when we worked together and it was so beautiful to watch on our friends and things like that. You know, we just bounced off of each other. And it's amazing how it comes back, because I don't feel like I truly know what I'm doing as such. I'm just doing what I feel is right and hoping that that's going to be helpful, I guess.
So are you hoping to hold some space more frequently now?
Yeah, I think I would like to. I mean, I did feel absolutely amazing the times that I've tried to facilitate sessions. I think what I've got to work on more is how to reground afterwards, because it's interesting how you become really activated once you start doing that deep healing work on other people, as well as on yourself, actually, because we take on so much, don't we, when we're working?
Yeah, it's certainly a dual process as facilitators. You're in the process and you're in unity with everybody in the space. So you're feeling, you're everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the importance to integrate all of that, including your own personal process.
Yeah, definitely. But I definitely feel there's more work to do, I think. So I don't feel that I'm particularly confident yet. And one of the things I want to get to grips with is creating the playlist. So I'm so into music, so in theory it shouldn't be difficult. So I think I'm probably overthinking it a little bit. But and there's so many different ways of doing it, isn't there?
Absolutely. I mean, there's phenomenal technology out there, and there's something about trust, and that actually you don't have to think too much. The tech does the thinking for you, and that you'll be intuitively guided to what sounds and noises that you blend together to create your playlist. So
Yeah.
you just have to give it a go.
Yeah. Exactly, I know.
And I'm imagining mentioning that you've got quite a lot of music that you already work with in your choreography and your belly dancing.
Yeah.
It's possible that you already have some soundscapes ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. I just need to kind of order them for what I need, I think. So yeah, it's having the space and energy to sit and do it, I think.
Yeah. So how would you describe to somebody who doesn't know what inner dance is, from your relationship with it so far? And it's going to change, and you're going to describe it differently every time someone asks you. But
Yeah.
how do you describe it today?
I think it's so hard to put into words, isn't it? But I suppose it's a meditative practice, I guess. For me, it was very much trauma healing on speed type thing. I mean, I've never touched any drugs in my life, but I would imagine that that's what it would be, because you are full on into it. The music that supports you guides you through a journey, a sound journey, and those sounds may aggravate, they may lift, they may drop, and you're not quite sure what's coming next. Some people may just lay and listen with their eyes closed, and they may see colours, they may see visions, they may see nothing, they may just relax and enjoy the music. For me, the movement is key, and I know that's very different for everybody. And there have been journeys where I've been actually just laid still, and that is what I need in that moment. But there's lots of stored, blocked energy within the body, and I think sometimes we don't know how to move, and part of that kind of inner work that we do, if we just move in the way that the music takes us, it can release in places you didn't know existed. Um, and sometimes those movements are completely, they're not planned. You're not thinking about what you're doing. You're intuitively moving. And that can feel absolutely incredible. I've known people that may have these crazy aches and pains. They've got a bad back, they've got bad hips or whatever. And they start moving and they're doing all these crazy positions. And you're wondering, how the hell did you get into that position when they're moving? But that is what their body is wanting them to do. And they walk away lighter. So whatever happens, whatever comes up is stuff that needs to come up. Some people, in a room full of inner dancers, sometimes there's sounds, extra sounds. Some people cry, scream, throw up. Everything is
Mm-hmm.
possible. Some people roll out the door. Some people do nothing as well. I think you can make it what you want, but essentially it's a mindful practice, I think, it is, and you're facilitated by the people holding the space. Part of that is to keep you safe, part of that is to maybe push you in a way you didn't feel you needed to, or whatever we think might be helpful. We might do energy work, it could be absolutely anything. Sometimes it is as simple as giving you a hug because you're crying. Sometimes it is touching you in a place that activates you. So it could be all manner of things, but it is always different. I find every single journey I've been on has been completely different from the last.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that a lot of the time, I don't know what's happened necessarily when I'm in it. I always journal. That's something that's been very, very important after a session,
Mm-hmm.
usually that evening. So it might not be straight away, but I'll go back and I will write down, what I saw or where I went, or, and that usually puts through a message to me. And it might be that I discuss it with one of my girlfriends that's also a facilitator and go, what do you think this means? And we will analyze it together. But sometimes just putting it down on paper gives it another energy and gives you another picture of what's going on. And you're like, right, now I know exactly what's going on. I do really believe our bodies have the answers and we are our own healers. And inner dance just gives us a place to do that work that's so important for our growth and moving forward in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful way of putting it. I have a sense that we're actually midwives and that we're supporting a birthing process.
Yeah.
And then I always call it like the cosmic crash, where it's like just a bunch of babies on mats and they're discovering, as if for the first time, whether it's okay to make noise, to move, to
Yeah,
be rooted to the ground, but to be authentically true to themselves in those moments.
yeah,
Trust, trusting that they shall be met unconditionally, that
yeah.
everything and everything is welcome. You know, like the best nursery in the world.
Yeah. I actually spoke to somebody yesterday who'd just come back from some shadow work, um, like a retreat weekend, and it was like a level two. And they told me that they'd actually, during this experience, they had their names removed and they were given different names. And what was very interesting about that was that all of a sudden they weren't their own identity anymore. They were
Mm-hmm.
having to think and feel intuitively, which sometimes, a lot of the time, I think we are quite conditioned in the lives that we lead now of this is how we're supposed to feel, this is what we're supposed to do, that we lose that intuition. And we're born with that, like you say, going back to being a baby, how do they know how to breastfeed? They do it intuitively because they like to suck and they like skin to skin and they want to be held, so they work it out. But we're in a society where we overthink and overanalyze everything. We forget that intuition. And going back to midwifery and birth, we lose that intuitive movement if we're not in a space that we can do that safely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, it's beautiful. I think you're just such an amazing addition to the inner dance community, and I do hope that you hold space soon so that I can come and attend.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I,
I'll have to come up to your way at some point.
yeah, absolutely. I have to say, the soundscapes I create and the spaces I hold, people tend to feel crucified to the floor for an hour, and there's no obvious movement and there's no sound. Everybody's going into deep space through their bodies, so
Yeah,
it's always a novel treat when I'm in someone else's space and there's a lot of movement and there's a lot of sound.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you're trying to push to go, are they going to move? Shall I try and encourage them a little bit and see what happens? They can always decide if they don't want to and go, no, I'm not going to move
That's
today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of the work is that it really does promote and encourage choice and being response able so that in every moment you go from autonomic to autonomy and yeah, ultimately it's up to you whether you do or you don't.
Yeah, exactly. You make that choice. And that choice can change as well. When we've held sessions and you kind of say, this is what's permitted, everything's allowed, but if you don't want us to touch you, just push us away. And that can change at any point. If we touch you somewhere you don't like, you can just slap us away. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just back from the medicine festival. So Marie, one of our dear colleagues and friends,
Oh, over. Yeah.
able to set up. So we had a very large inner dance, and Fiona and Kerry were there as well. And it was
Wow.
a very, very beautiful Sunday morning in Reading,
Yeah.
holding powerful space.
Gosh. So how many people were there?
I think we had 60 or 70.
My goodness. That's crazy, isn't it?
So that was really nice.
Yeah, yeah. And it's good that you're still in touch as well.
Yeah, it's really lovely. So it's a nice treat to come down from Scotland to do something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are the next steps for you and your work? Do you have any sort of belly dance or projects? Um
I do. It's always ongoing because I'm at the point now, I think, where I definitely feel like I'm getting older. So, and losing a couple of years from COVID in my dance life, I think I'm now embracing every opportunity a little bit too much. So it's kind of, I kind of feel like, the level that I'm at, I don't know how much further I can go. If I end up losing, some sort of movement and I can't dance at this level, then I want to have taken every opportunity and not regret anything, I guess. So I've applied for a couple of projects. I found out today I got into one of them, and that is dancing in Milan, which
Wow.
is going to be the last weekend in November, I think. And yeah, that's part of a project called the Divine Comedy, which is really cool. And from other projects is that I trained as a yoga birth teacher a couple of years ago, and I haven't practiced per se, in that when I was doing my training, it was a year-long course. It was 300 hours. I offered free NHS classes to anybody that was employed within our trust, whether they were a midwife or admin or whatever. I also ran my own audit as part of that to see what the outcomes were. And we actually only had 2 C-sections, both of which, one was an emergency who didn't labour, and the other person had a planned C-section. So actually everybody within it that tried for a natural birth had one, which was amazing.
Amazing.
And also without any intervention, without any pain relief, other than maybe gas and air or whatever. So they all did brilliantly. But I never really got to practice it as a qualified person, other than like colleagues and friends and things like that. So I found out that the qualification isn't recognised by a yoga body. So I'm taking myself off to Thailand next year for a full 300-hour immersion. So I've had to apply for a big sabbatical from the NHS. It's only for a number of weeks, but you can't have more than 2 weeks off without a sabbatical, unfortunately. So I'm going to be taking myself off for March and April, and I'm going to be doing my official yoga training. Again, not really necessarily because I want to be a yoga teacher, but I thought it would deepen my practice, and
Mhm.
it would, support what I do in pregnancy. And my goal is to really set up the pregnancy yoga as well, because it does interweave with everything else that I'm doing. It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But life just keeps throwing me curveballs, is what I'm finding. So we had, I got married last year, and we just sold the house, we just bought a new house. So I have to get through each thing and then I can focus on the next thing. So in the next kind of 6 months to a year, I would like to have set that up to be officially teaching and supporting women like I already am, but just in another avenue to
Yeah.
support them through remaining mobile through pregnancy, and hopefully, empowering their birth choices as well.
Amazing. What exciting times for you. I'm delighted, and going to Milan and dancing and being part of that Divine Comedy project sounds awesome. It's such a beautiful city, and I think it's amazing that you get to work globally. It just speaks to how amazing you are at what you do and how you move, and then to, like you say, to immerse yourself further so that you can really hold those deep, powerful spaces for women who are wanting more empowered birth choices, and to really be involved in the process of birthing rather than
Yeah,
being sort of like a passive um yeah carrier of babies. I don't know.
yeah,
I've,
exactly.
I've never been pregnant, and I never will be, so I find it really delightful to have these sorts of conversations. It really sort of inspires and animates how I can creatively give birth to ideas and projects myself. And
Yeah,
it's really, I love the language. I think there's something so symbolic that everybody can relate to when we're speaking about birth and pregnancy, and
yeah,
it just shows up everywhere. So
absolutely.
wow, you're going to be very busy in the next few months and moving house and all of these things. And
I know. It always happens all at the same time, doesn't it, as well?
would you
But
have it any other way, Lianna?
I
I'm not.
know, I know. I think it's going to be a massive shift as well, because I'm going to have my own studio within the new house, which is really
Oh wow.
exciting. Because at the moment, I have mirrors up in my living room, so it can be tricky sharing the space with my husband, who's also a very creative soul. So he works in radio, so he does lots of musical stuff and things as well. So
Cool.
yeah, yeah,
What a union. Okay, so it's great that you're going to have your own custom made studio just for you and your work. That's
yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah, definitely.
So the next few months, I mean, your trajectory is clear and it's radiant, and yeah. And then what?
And I don't know.
And you're going to
Probably,
practice a minute dance in there as well.
yeah, exactly. I need to do some more in a dance. I think, yeah, that is definitely on the cards. And we set up like a local women's circle. Again, also struggling to get together because it's busy adult lives for everybody. But we're very lucky that I know so many, holistic practitioners, and we all carry our own strengths, and we all go off and do our own things, and then we come back and we share for each other, and that's really, really special. So hoping we're going to get that properly up and running. We're going to meet next month, so we've actually set the date, we're going to do it. And so I think there'll be more things on the cards for that. But I also want to run retreats at some point as well. So that is another thought in my brain as a little life goal to happen. Maybe not in the next year, but definitely once everything else is set up. That'll be the after that.
Well,
and then maybe I can incorporate in a dance, can't I, to birthing? Who knows?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like that's already happening anyway, that you're intuitively moving towards that. I don't know, I can already see that happening for you.
Yeah, I think it kind of is, to be honest. I think we do so much in the work that we do day to day. It kind of sneaks in somehow.
It certainly does. Intuitive. Oh, I could speak to you for hours. I just think this has just been such a lovely way to spend my evening. I'm really happy to spend this time with you. But we're coming towards the end of the show, Lianna, and well, I'm a bookworm, and I'm always looking for suggestions, and I'm wondering if you've got any books or resources that you might recommend to us readers. Maybe it's on dance or midwifery, maybe it's on something completely random, but is there a book in your life that really stayed with you, that's lit you up on the inside?
Yes, there is, and it's like curveball, I suppose. But my favourite book was Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, and I don't know if you've ever read it or know much about her, but she was a travel writer many moons ago, and she went through massive life change when she turned 30, and this book is just a testament to her story, and it's only part of the story because she's written so many books before and after that she's very, very well known for. But when I actually came across it, I actually watched the movie first, which people can get on Netflix, so that's another easy way in. But I went with my bestie to see this movie, and this was a woman who was stuck in a marriage, and she traveled to Bali. She met a medicine man, and he told her that you're going to lose all your money, you're going to have 2 marriages, one long, one short, and you're going to come back to Bali and you're going to teach me English. And she said, well, am I in the long or the short marriage? She said, don't know. It turns out she was in the short marriage. So she decides that, going through that awful trauma of divorce, that she needed to find herself. So she takes a year out and she spends 3 months in Rome. She started learning Italian as well. And she then went to India to pray and followed a guru over there and did some work. And then she ended the year in Bali. And it was just her journey through her observations and her refinding herself again. So I remember going to see this movie with my best friend, and I was like, what is this movie? It just annoyed me, actually. But it kind of stayed with me. And then, I actually have done so much since then. So obviously I read the book on repeat. And then I actually, when I turned 40, 5 years ago, I traveled to India and I traveled to Bali, and I met the medicine man's son, because the medicine man is no longer alive, and I had a palm reading with him. I met the medicine woman that was key in the story. I've also been to Rome twice. I now plan to go every year because I love it so much over there. And I'm planning to learn Italian as well as part of that. Hence, okay, I've gotten to Milan. If I get in, I'm learning Italian. And I also actually took my best friend to see Elizabeth Gilbert speak earlier in the year, which was so emotional, full of women that are obsessed with her. But she is an incredible human being. She's such an amazing speaker. She's a TED talker as well. She does a book called Big Magic, which is also really worth a read if you're a creative soul. And it's very easy, engaging material, but also very profound. So An easy way is the movie, but anything by her is fantastic, for sure.
Gosh, you've really brought it to life for yourself as well by going sort of on these pilgrimages and having your own experiences inspired by hers. That's beautiful.
or nuts, but I'll take I'll take the positive with
Well,
it.
absolutely. Take the blend of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've always got a bias about things like that, and I just assumed I would never read that book. But I think you might have turned my head. Um, I'm gonna check this one out.
Yeah, she's very funny as well. So she tells very serious material in a very light-hearted way, which I find really endearing as well.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for that recommendation. That's going to go on the list and to the ever increasing piles of books that are stacked around every room in my house.
I'm glad to be of help.
Certainly, I don't think my partner's going to thank you for it. And he's always like, another book. I mean, next to my bed, I've probably got about 80 books just stacked, waiting to be read. So there's
Oh my
another one for the pile. I know. I've been like that since I was a baby. I used to
Yeah.
stack Ladybird books up higher than, like, I was like 2 years old or something, and just like go through them. And then my mum would come through and put the pile back on the other side of me, and then I would just go through them again. So I've just had piles of books around me my whole life.
Oh my gosh,
It's
amazing.
obviously it's obviously a safety thing. Anyway, oh, Lianna, we've come to the end of the hour, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. It's just been, I feel fresh. I feel refreshed and I feel cleansed after this conversation. Your energy is so vibrant and you speak so from the heart. I can feel your passion, and I'm not going to say I'm activated, but I really do feel illuminated and animated, and I really thank you for that. Just learn
Amazing.
I've learned so much, and I get such a clear sense of you as a belly dancer, as a midwife, working with your yoga, working with inner dance, and how you interweave these ancient sacred practices and how you're creating something so unique and so uniquely you. And I'm just very excited for your future and for the people who are going to be working with you, because what you're creating is epic.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been really, really lovely. And it's lifted me as well, actually, having this conversation.
So, for anyone who's interested to maybe come and see you or work with you in some way, how might they get in touch with you, or how might they get information about your offerings?
So there's nothing particularly set up around inner dance or the yoga yet, but I say that will be happening hopefully the next 6 months or so. On Instagram, I'm under Lianna Belly Dance, so it's just an anagram of my name, so Ilnana. And on Facebook, I'm Lianna Greene, with all my dance stuff is on there, and there's also
Brilliant.
on YouTube as well.
Awesome. So, definitely be checking those out as well. So,
Yeah,
and what I'll do is afterwards I'll put up those links as well so that people can find you more easily. But
yeah.
that's been an absolute honour. Thank you so very much for your time. Hopefully I can get you back on the show next year after you've done your trainings, and we can have a catch up about
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
how Milan, how Thailand's been for you, how your own Eat Pray Love kind of journey's going.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much, Caroline. It's been really, really lovely chatting to you.
Oh, awesome. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna end the show, switch the recording off, and then we can just say a quick bye before you sign
Okay.
off. Okay, my love. Okay. Anyway, dear hearts, we've come to the end of another Inner Dance show, and it's just been a glorious journey and blending of worlds, thanks to Lianna. And I can't recommend her space holding highly. And so please check out the work that she's offering, check out those videos, and if you do ever get a chance to work with her, don't hesitate. So much love, sweet lucid dreams when they come, and speak to you soon. Okay.